o'clock, and we'll start with the roll call.
Good evening, board. All district staff is present this evening, and all board members are present with the exception of Sandy Price, who is out due to illness tonight.
And we're going to start with the agenda approval. We need to approve the agenda of Tuesday, March 1st, 2022, and permit reading the title only of proposed agenda items in lieu of reciting the entire text. We have a motion by Diane Groom. Second by Keith Giles. And all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next do we have any public input on closed session agenda items?
We do not this evening.
Our closed session items are personnel matters with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, reassignment, and non-reelect, and approval of non-reelection of probationary employee number 2022-01. And employer-employee relations with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. Conference with labor negotiator, Mr. Lexicani, regarding certificated bargaining unit, classified bargaining unit, unrepresented groups. Pupil personnel with regard to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Ed Code Section 35146. And legal issues with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, and also facilities. With that, we're going to recess to closed session at 5:02.
Just wanted to shut the camera off, leave it running. Know how we do it? Picks up some signs.
Five, going to be at
The other. Right. Regular has to go. I can write that down. I'll probably forget, but I better write it down. Regular boardroom.
regular, yeah. The one and the only original. The air.
You're not coming, but somebody's gonna let us in, I take it?
Area will be there, leadership project, and we will have the book for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Well,
And I need the two all day. That's a month. Yeah. Gonna be a tough one.
be on the lookout for an email from Chris. He has been sending me to all of the documents, the latter part of that week, so you'll have time to look at it before you. They have a 10 copy, so you'll have somebody to look it up.
Okay. Somebody might be broke in. Oh, man. Breaks with you. Mr. CP. Okay, you just asked one of mine. All right. We're good.
Okay, we're going to reconvene to open session at 6:12. And first, we're going to report of any action taken in closed session. So in closed session, we had a vote to approve of non-reelection of probationary employee number 2022-01. There was a motion by Mr. Nguyen, second by Mr. Giles, and it was passed 4-0. And we were reconvened at 6:13, and we'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance led by Dr. Larry Freeze.
Please stand. Place your right hand over your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance Thank you.
And welcome to the meeting of the Lancaster School District. We will start with our enrollment report led by Dr. Rebecca Cooksey.
Thank you. I'm glad to be promoted to doctor. That'd be great. All right. So our enrollment report for tonight is for our TK through 8th grade students. We have 14,090 students. In ECE, we have 576 for a grand total of 14,666. This is a gain of 17 students from our last report and a gain of 338 from the same time last year.
Hey, great report. Thank you. Next, we have our SB 130 Charter School update led by Dr. Jordan Goins.
Okay. Hey, good evening. It's good to see everybody tonight. I'm here tonight to be able to provide a little bit of information having to do with AB 130's impact on charter school extensions and our district. So the impact to our district as in regards to AB 130. So as everybody will recall, the California legislature has provided some leniency in terms of accountability measures over the past years because due to the COVID pandemic, and in the attempt to be able to ensure that our schools could focus on what mattered most in getting kids back into in-person instruction and making sure that we had all the correct items and things in place to be able to make that happen most effectively. Well, those same situations and accountability were also meted out towards charter schools. So given that, there were two main and significant pieces of AB 130 that are extremely important that we make sure that the board is aware of moving forward. The first one is not as consequential. The second is a little more for us. AB 130 extended the prohibition on the approval of a petition for the establishment of a new charter school offering non-classroom based instruction for 3 years. So a new school coming in that was going to provide for non-classroom based instruction, so it would be virtual instruction, prohibition in totality for the next 3 years. That was one thing that the AB 130 provided. The second piece, which is a little more consequence to Lancaster School District, is that Assembly Bill 130 extended the terms of all charter schools whose terms were set to expire on or between January 1st of 2022 and June 30th of 2025 by 2 years. So I want to make sure that makes sense. So basically, if a charter school's petition was set to expire between January 1st, 2022 that we just passed and June 30th, 2025, they got an automatic extension for another 2 years. So the specific language states that notwithstanding the renewal process and criteria established in sections 47605.9, 47607, and 47607.2, or any other law effective July 1st, 2021, all charter schools whose term expires on or between January 1st, 2022 and January 30th, 2025 inclusive, shall have their terms extended by 2 years. So showing that if you had a previous charter term expiration date of June 30th of 2022, you now had your new charter expiration date will now be June 30th of 2024. So you will recall, this is the impacts to Lancaster School District. You'll recall that in 2019, we approved LifeSource International Charter for a term of up to 5 years. And it was commencing July 1st of 2020, and it was set to sunset on June 30th of 2025. 5 years. So because of that, it was geared to sunset on June 30th, 2025. Now it is set to sunset on June 30th of 2027. So they backed it up. You will also recall that very recently last year, in 2021, we approved iLead for a term of 2 years to commence on July 1st, 2021, and that school is set to sunset, or its expiration date is on June 30th of 2023 because we gave it only a 2-year extension or 2-year approval based on the data that we saw at the time. Now, iLead set to sunset on June 30th, was set to sunset on June 30th of 2023, is now set to sunset on June 30th, 2025. So what does this mean for us moving forward? The school, LifeSource International Charter, we would be looking at the next time that we're going to be having the opportunity to be able to look at them from that particular angle in terms of re-upping their charter petition would be the beginning of the process would start in the beginning of January of 2027. We've set that date so that we can ensure that at the time when we're working with that school, we're working with the most current data that school can provide, which will be available in December of 2026. So we will be able to, so we've told them that they must provide their charter petition by January of 2027. And then the process starts. We would then you would then see a board presentation between February and March of 2027, and the current charter petition would end on June 30th of 2027. And finally, same with iLead. January of 2025 would be that first opportunity. We would get information from them, and then we would start the process in which they would sunset by June 30th, 2025. And if they were not renewed by our board, and they were not renewed by Lancaster School District, they would no longer be available after June 30th, 2025. So I just wanted to provide that information to the board and to everybody. Thought it was vital information before we stepped forward. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sir.
Regarding the second iLead that is not approved by the Lancaster School District.
Yes,
If I'm not mistaken, you said it had its charter through 2024
yes.
in a district that we haven't approved them.
Right.
How does that affect us?
So they have, there's nothing that we can effectively do at this particular point. They would be set to sunset in 2026.
So iLead is
That iLead.
that iLead. I know there's two. That iLead will continue to take the ADA from our district for an additional 2 years. Correct?
Yeah, correct. For the period of time, yes. That specific iLead is chartered and authorized through a separate district. And it's legal.
No, I understand it's
Yeah.
chartered through Acton, which is nowhere near Lancaster, but
Mhm.
we're losing students to iLead, that iLead, not iLead Lancaster.
And I'm in contact with that charter authorizer on a pretty consistent basis, just to keep conversations open as to what's happening with that school. So,
Thank you.
no worries. Are there any other questions?
Okay. No further questions. Yeah, thank you. Okay, next we have an information, March 8th, 2022. We have a special meeting in closed session at the district office from 5 o'clock. Any information on that, Ms. Powers?
No, just a reminder, really, placeholders so that the board, because this is not a regular board meeting night, so there will be a special meeting. It is a closed session only meeting, and it has to do with the superintendent search. So you'll be going through all of the applications that have been received at that time, and that would be facilitated by Leadership Associates.
And that'll be at the district office on Cedar?
That'll be at the district office on Cedar. Yes. The old boardroom.
Okay, and do we have any other informational items?
Actually, I do have things just continue to happen, so hot off the press. I just wanted to provide the board, and we have a large audience, so the board and the audience, an update on what's going on with the Department of Public Health. I'm sure most everyone is aware because it's been big news, but there was an announcement yesterday about the California Department of Health, Public Health, followed subsequently by the county, Los Angeles County Department of Public Health. And their announcement basically said, and I just want to look at it so I get it correct, that effective March 12th, the universal masking requirement for K-12 would end as far as the mandate. CDPH, both the state and the county level, continues to strongly recommend that individuals in school settings continue to wear the mask, but it would not be required. For the last 2 years, the board has, and the district has really followed the guidelines and adhere to the guidelines of the County Department of Public Health. I would like to recommend that we continue to do that, which would basically allow for the district, Lancaster School District, to utilize the same timeline and allow for masks to be optional. And it would not be mandated for students or staff members to wear masks if it's effective March 12th, which is a Saturday. So it's the first school day would be March 14th. With that said, the important thing is to remember is that there are still many, many questions about what are some of the other changes that may be required. And we don't have all of that information yet. And what I'm referring to is physical distancing and isolation quarantine implications. So we are anxiously awaiting some additional information. Our goal as a district is to send out a very detailed, comprehensive communication to all staff members and all families early next week. We hope to have some information at that time, letting them know exactly what the changes are going to be that will take effect on the 14th of March. But we are pleased that the state and the county are moving in this direction. We too have taken down the plexiglass shields in the district. We started that a couple weeks ago, about a week and a half ago, a couple weeks ago. And after spring break, we plan to be in a position. Hopefully we don't see any unexpected surges during spring break or right after that. So assuming that we don't see any, we plan to invite volunteers back as appropriate. Obviously, there will be some criteria that would have to be met, but we would communicate exactly what that looks like. And we are already, as prior to this announcement, already planning for in-person open house events this spring. So we are pleased to be able to welcome families back on. So each open house event will look slightly different, but the sites are really working hard to come up with some creative ways to engage families and invite them back onto our school campuses. So we're very pleased to be able to do that and looking forward, looking forward to planning in-person promotions as well. So let's keep our fingers crossed that things continue to move in the right direction as far as numbers go. We also had received and had ordered several thousand antigen rapid tests. So our plan at this time would be to send those rapid tests home with our families right before the spring break, along with a note encouraging people to utilize those right before their child comes back. So over the weekend before they're scheduled to return back to school from spring break, to be able to test so that we would hopefully be able to identify any positive cases. And if you were positive, obviously stay at home, and then be able to make those tests available to staff members as well, and encouraging them to do the same thing. So we know that spring break, warmer weather could lend itself to people gathering, and COVID is still here. So we want to be mindful of that. And since we have the test already, it's a good way for us to utilize that to continue to do what we can to promote safe and healthy schools. So that is the update for now. Something in writing, as I said, with more detail and information will be coming out early part of next week to all of our families.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That is fantastic news. So as of March 14th, then masks will be optional, both indoors and outdoors at throughout the Lancaster School District. Excellent. Great to hear that. Okay, next we have our recognition with our ACES Awards. Mr. Lexi Conti.
Thank you. It's always my pleasure to come before the board and recognize employees who are achieving a culture of exceptional service. And this evening, there are 8 people that I'd like to recognize, and they are in 4 different groups. I did get some emails this afternoon indicating that some folks might not be able to be here. That doesn't make this recognition any less, and we'll make sure that they receive their recognition. So the first person that we'd like to recognize, and I believe her principal is here to accept on her behalf, is for Sybil Kubas Watson. Sybil, as you know, is the secretary at Desert View. And I just want to read that she was nominated by Assistant Principal Eric Gold from Mariposa. And this is what Eric had to say. And Eric's in the Eric, stand and wave in your beautiful purple shirt, showing his school colors. So this is what Eric had to say. We are currently down a secretary and an office assistant. We are doing our best to meet the needs of the school and the office. Most days we got it under control. Last week we were gifted with a new kindergarten teacher. This is such a relief to the large kindergarten classroom sizes. The downside is that no one at her site knew how to put in the new teacher or class sections into Power School. Eric said he reached out to Sybil from Desert View. We worked together for about a week during this school year, and she started to explain how to get this done. She then stopped herself in the middle of the explanation and said, "If you can get me Power School access, I will do it for you." Of course, I reached out to Rebecca Cooksey, and she had it done almost immediately. Sybil entered everything from Mariposa computer science magnets, so the new teacher would be ready to start with a complete roster. This was not something she had to do, but she quickly responded and took action to help out a fellow Lancaster School District family member. It is great to work with such amazing people who are willing to go above and beyond for our staff members, students, and family. Join me, if you will, in recognizing Sybil this evening. The next recognition that we have this evening is for Mr. Dean Four, and we all know how much Dean loves this kind of thing. So, Dean, come on down. Dean, for those of you who don't know, is our Director of Facilities. And Dean, you were nominated by Misty Gale, who was just up here. Would you like to know what she had to say? Why not? Okay, so here, Dean, I'll let you hold your award and let everybody see it. Dean, this is what she had to say. I would like to acknowledge and recognize Mr. Four for all that he does behind the scenes. Since my arrival on the scene at Desert View, Dean has gone above and beyond on a multiple of occasions. Every work order I've submitted, and there have been several, have been completed, discussed, planned, or laughed at in a timely manner. Dean personally designed an area to accommodate the needs of our special needs preschool class and a multitude of adaptations that supported their safety needs, the safety needs of these kiddos. He brought in an engineer to ensure our needs were met before we installed a new screen in our cafeteria. I could continue to list each time Dean has been there to support me and our students, but at the end of the day, we all know he works quietly and gets things done. What I really want to do is express my gratitude for all the work he does. I thought of Snoopy's Flying Ace character when nominating Dean for the ACES Award. The Flying Ace Award originated as a military award when an aviator is credited with shooting down 5 or more enemy aircraft during an aerial combat. Dedicated, determined, and successful in serving with the touch of character, a perfect mix. Dean Four is the Lancaster School District ace in our pockets that keeps our schools up to date, in shape, and student ready. Thank you, Dean. It is pretty nice and well-deserved. Next up, we have what I like to refer to as a twofer. So we have a couple of people that were nominated by the same health clerk at a school, and we're going to start with Kim Cochran. Kim, are you in the room? Kim, come on down. Kim is the principal at Jack Northrop, and you were nominated by your health clerk. So Kim, I'll read while you hold your award. I would like to nominate Kim Cochran as she has been such an amazing leader for us here at Jack Northrop. She is a team player and really is the rock to our school that keeps us together. She has handled this year with such grace, even though there are stressful times, and she is doing it all by herself. She has given me especially so much support, which I have never had. I could not ask for better. Oh, and the way she handles our kiddos and our parents, she has so much patience and love. And I'll vouch for that too. Congratulations and thank you, Kim. Okay. I gifted her with the paperclip as well.
Nice.
Next up, also by Sandra Ramarian, who's the health clerk at at Jack Northrop. I'd like to call up Johanna Gomez. How are you this evening? Oh. Johanna Gomez is the LVN, also deserves an award. She has definitely been my backbone. I am on my 3rd wellness aid. When we came back from winter break, she jumped right in and helped me so much. She is an awesome team player and a quick learner. I wouldn't have been able to do it without her. I hear that about you a lot. And I just want to say congratulations and thank you for all you do. And if 2 together is called a twofer, then 4 together must be called a fourfer.
Yeah.
I'd like to call up, if you're in the house, the following people who are being recognized by West Wind teacher Matt McQuarrie. So Jim Chambers indicated that he was not going to be able to be here tonight, but Rebecca Cooksey is here. So Rebecca, come on down. And Carrie Majano. Carrie's here. All right, Rebecca. Yeah. And the fourth person to be nominated is Nancy Volkanot, who was unable to be here also this evening. And this is what Matt had to say. He said, "Hey, all of you, I now have 23 brand new, as well as 2 old microphones in use in my classroom. I am very grateful for everyone's assistance in making this happen, especially during a monumentally busy time. My students and I are now figuring out how to seamlessly utilize them. That may take a bit, but they are a lot of great sports. Along with my new and improved personal hearing aids, this addition is incredible. Thank you again to all, especially Carrie, who has spent numerous hours in my class to do the necessary pairing and teaching me. I will be more than happy to assist anyone else who may get this technology in the future because I am learning new things daily. You all have kept me in this game a little bit longer. My family and I are extremely grateful. Thank you again, Matt McQuarrie." And I want to say thank you to the 2 of you and the 2 of you who may be listening at home for making sure that we do all we can to serve our family. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lexi. It's great to see all the input from principals and teachers and staff and facilities managers. It's just neat to see everyone working hard to make our district the great district that it is. So thank you so much. We appreciate everything that you guys do. All right. Next, we have information on the National School Breakfast Week, March 7th to 11th.
Thank you, Mr. TP. As we all went to school as children, each day we usually toted our lunch with us and we enjoyed what mom or dad made for us that day. And some of us were lucky enough to be able to have a meal in the cafeteria on occasion. And our district has a phenomenal food service program. And back in March of 2020, when this COVID crisis crashed upon us and schools closed and everybody was sent home, meal service never stopped. Our cafeteria workers continued to report to their work locations and prepared meals that families could pick up at the front of school. At the height of COVID, when nobody really knew how severe COVID was going to become, there were no vaccines available, and there was a lot of fear associated, our cafeteria workers continued to report to work and produce meals. And they were on the very front lines of risk at the onset of the pandemic. And their contribution to feeding the families and the children of our district is not to be understated. This week is National School Breakfast Week. Next week is National School Breakfast Week. And Tony Thurman, the superintendent of instruction for the state of California, wanted to recognize those employees who provide meals for our students. We provide about 20,000 meals a day to our students. That's millions of meals a year. And in good times and bad, COVID or not, we continue to provide those meals. And I know we've got a representative from Child Nutrition Services back there. I see Debbie. Debbie, stand up. Debbie Candelaria is one of our directors from Child Nutrition Services. Is there anybody here with you tonight, Debbie? Well, thank you for being here tonight. Our district serves not only breakfast and lunch, but we're actually going to be branching out to dinner in the coming years as we have some opportunities for an expanded school year. And Debbie, again, on behalf of the district and the superintendent and the board, we say thank you again to you and your staff in keeping our children fed, which we know is a great contribution to their ability to learn. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to definitely honor them next week and throughout the year. I know during the COVID times, the virtual teaching and during summer school, and they kept putting those meals out, and parents could drive up and pick up breakfast and lunch, and it kept a lot of families going. And hats off to all that hard work, because that was not easy getting out ready and everything. Great job. All right, next we have presentations. We have a presentation about Melrose CFD 2004, a bond issuance led by Caldwell Flores and Winters.
Thank you very much, Mr. Teepee. This evening, we are pleased to have representatives from CFW come and share some information about the Melrose area and some possibilities to bond against that so that we can continue to move forward with our facilities projects.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Kush Guerra, very pleased to be here this evening. With me is our CEO, Emilio Flores, who has been overseeing your Melrose district for the last several years. And if the board decides to proceed with this transaction, we'll be overseeing the transaction as well. I've had the privilege of serving your district for almost 30 years now. Congratulations on this new boardroom. It's beautiful. And I wanted to, as we have done periodically from time to time, present you an opportunity for the board's consideration. And if this is something that the district would like to proceed with, we would come back somewhere in the future as an action item. So with that, as your superintendent, Dr. Powers, had mentioned, your district does have a Melrose CFD that was formed. Okay? The CFD is formed by developers, usually at the request of developers, and it's formed to be able to allow homeowners to pay their school impact fees over time as part of their property tax bills on an ongoing basis, as compared to paying it upfront in the form of developer fees, which in turn is paid by the developer and passed on to homeowners. So this allows you to lower the initial purchase price of a home because the impact fees are rolled into an ongoing payment, just like you would get a mortgage to pay for your home over time as compared to buying it for cash. So the CFD isn't one contiguous piece. It's multiple pieces. The original formation was back in 2004. And since then, at the request of developers, additional parcels have been annexed into the district. And when the CFD was formed, there was an intent at that point to issue bonds against the CFD to finance school facilities and improvements to mitigate the impact of the additional development on your schools. So as mentioned, there are the parcels pay a tax on an ongoing basis, on an annual basis. And for the current fiscal year, there's about just over 700 parcels that were in the CFD that were taxed. If you're undeveloped, in most circumstances, you're not taxed. It's only once a building permit is pulled that the tax is triggered. And those 700 parcels account for about $950,000 in levies that the district levied on properties in the CFD for the current fiscal year. The taxes are anticipated to increase over time. As you can see in the chart below, the blue indicates the actuals, the green indicates the projected. And the reason that the taxes will be increasing over time is the taxes may increase at 2% a year. So per the original election documents where the developers formed the CFD, the tax is permitted to increase at 2% a year. For the purpose of this chart, we're assuming no more homes get built in the CFD. Most likely you will have additional homes, and as additional homes arise, you'll probably see those tax revenues growing. But to take a conservative stance, we've assumed no more homes would be built in the CFD. You will notice, though, about 2/3 of the way through the chart, the rate starts declining and the amount of levy drops in the future years. And that's because, based on the provisions of the CFD, every parcel could be only taxed for a maximum period of 35 years. So once it's been taxed for 35 years, the district can no longer levy a tax. The parcel has paid its fair share to mitigate the impact, and those parcels drop off. And so you'll see that the tail end of the chart is kind of the converse of the front end of the chart. It tapers off And at this point, the last tax levy would be somewhere around 2055, which is when the last parcel will have paid their taxes. Of course, if there are additional permits pulled in the district, you will continue to be able to levy taxes over time. So with that, I wanted to present the opportunity to be able to levy, convert the tax levy into bond proceeds if the district so decides to proceed that way. As mentioned, when the CFD was formed, the developers agreed to two things through an election: that there would be an ongoing tax that started off at 32 cents a square foot. It escalates at 2% a year. And also an undeveloped property tax could be levied if required under certain circumstances, and that's primarily driven by if and when bonds are issued. And the voters agreed, the landowners agreed at that time to issue bonds, for the district to be able to issue bonds as supported by the tax, in an amount that could be supported by the tax, the lesser of the amount that could be supported by the tax, as well as not to exceed 100 million over time. So it's the lesser of what the tax can support, or $100 million. To date, no bonds have been issued, but as you may recall, the district has a COP that's been outstanding for several years, probably over at least 25 years, because it was there when I first started working with your district. And in the past, the COP was a burden on your general fund, and your general fund would make payments in the COP, and it always had an operational impact. One of the things Dr. Bowers did when she came in is she had us take a look and see how could we restructure the COP so that the impact was not borne. The COP was to construct facilities. Its intent was not to be paid by operational funds. And she had us look to see how can I get the COP off my general fund. And availing ourselves of the Melrose revenues at that time, plus structuring the COP to fit the Melrose revenues. Over the last several years, the COP has not been a burden on the general fund. It has been supported by the Melrose district. So a portion of the Melrose tax revenues go to support your COP. We clearly understand that that's the intent of the district to continue to be that case. You do not intend to bring the COP back on the general fund. And I'll be discussing that a little bit further in the presentation. But if we were to set aside the COP payments and say, from the Melrose, we need to set aside the COP payments, any money left over after we pay the COP, the district has two choices. You can let that money roll in over time, or just like with the mortgage, you can take that money, capitalize it, and under today's interest rates, somewhere between $8 and $9 million of bonds could be issued against that surplus that is anticipated to be calculated over or collected over time. Please understand this is not a tax rate increase by any means. The community and the CFD is already paying the tax. The choice to the board is whether you take that money over time or whether you capitalize that money in the form of a bond and put that money to work in constructing and improving school facilities upfront. So with that, I know the board is quite familiar with issuing general obligation bonds. We've done several new money bonds as well as refinancing bonds. And so I wanted to contrast a little bit how a Melrose bond would be different than a GEO bond that you've done in the past. CFD taxes are typically levied on a per square foot basis, which is one of the big differences up front. Both the taxes are collected by the county and paid as part of your property taxes. But the CFD taxes are typically per square foot, while the GEO bond taxes are ad valorem. They're based on the value of the property. The CFD tax rate is also capped at a maximum. There's a maximum that the district can levy every year. That does rise by 2% a year, but there is a maximum. There is no maximum rate on the GEO bond. The GEO bond, the county will calculate whatever tax is required to pay back the bonds. CFD bonds are a little bit more cumbersome and complicated to issue. One of the requirements is to set aside a reserve or have a reserve policy, which is to say, if in any year the county cannot collect enough tax levies to pay back the bondholders, the bondholders have recourse to either a fund of a cash sitting in the bank to provide some liquidity to make sure that they're made whole on their payments, or the district would purchase an insurance policy to say for any reason, if the county is not able to collect enough taxes, the insurer would pay the bondholders and make them whole. Eventually, the county will pursue the taxes and make itself whole or replenish the reserve fund. But over time, there's a separate set aside to allow it, despite it, even though there's delinquencies, to allow the bondholders to get paid. And then finally, the property, the CFD is secured. The bonds of the CFD are secured by only those little areas that you saw on the front page. It's not by the entire district, unlike the general obligation bonds, which are secured by the district as a whole. So with that, over here on the second to last page, I know it's a little bit of an eye test, ladies and gentlemen, but please understand that what we wanted to do is in concept over here, the left table presents to you the way it is today. There are no bonds issued. We are currently collected about $950,000. You'll see these numbers follow the chart that you saw on the earlier page. They go up to a little over $1 million or about $1.4 million. And then they drop off over time as the parcels fall off the roll. In the middle column of the first table, you see the COP payments. And then after that, less Melrose bond payments. You currently have no Melrose bonds. There are no payments. So currently, after you've paid off the COPs, you have somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000 coming in every year over time until the COPs are paid off. Several years out, once the COPs are paid off, that amount will go up to over $1 million for a while, and then will start dropping off once the parcels roll off the tax roll. So absolutely one option for the district is to do nothing, be able to enjoy the stream of revenues, and as the money comes in and is available over time, to utilize that for facilities improvements. The other chart on the right contemplates an issuance of Melrose bonds and says, after we've paid off the COPs, we can then take the remaining revenues, the surplus revenues, not all of it. You'll notice in the rightmost column, we're still leaving some money on the table. We still want some shock absorber for delinquencies if there's delinquencies in the program. But if we were to take a majority of that surplus and bond against it, which is essentially tell investors, give me somewhere between $8 and $9 million upfront today now that I can spend on improving facilities, in return for which I will pay you back over time, starting with about $300,000 a year, going up once the COPs are paid off, up to $1 million a year for a couple of years, and then back tapering it back down. So in exchange for the stream of cash flows, give me monies up front. And that would be what issuing a Melrose bond would involve. Essentially, as compared to the money coming in over time, you would be able to capitalize and have that monies up front in order to be able to improve your facilities now. So with that, I wanted to go to the last page. If this is an opportunity that the board wishes to pursue, we're presenting some information to the board tonight. If directed by your staff, we would come back to you in the future with an action item. One of the items that we are looking at for your superintendent's direction, though, is what your superintendent wants to see is that in the future, if there are no delinquencies, great. The COP gets paid and the Melrose bond gets paid, and there's no impact on the general fund. But the most traditional Melrose approach would be that the Melrose bond would have the first dibs or would have the senior position on revenues, and the Melrose bondholders would have the first claim on those monies. Okay? What your superintendent wanted us to explore along with the legal team is to see if there's a way to flip that around and to say, I want the COP to have the first dibs on the Melrose revenues, okay? So that I know the COP gets paid, there's no impact to the general fund on an ongoing basis, and the Melrose bondholder takes the risk. Yes, they have the access to the reserve funds, We've been working, the superintendent challenged us to see, can you come up with that position? Because I don't want to do something that's going to put my general fund at risk once again. It took us many, many years to come away from that position. I don't want to go back there. So we've been working with legal counsel on that. Legal counsel believes they have a solution that that they can write into the purchase contract for the bondholders and the legal documents that contractually obligates a set aside for the COP payments prior to the Melrose bondholders having a claim on the bonds. And we think we can get there. We're pretty sure we can get there. But there's some I's to be dotted and T's to be crossed. And I think as a condition to coming back to you for any future action item, your superintendent wants to see that codified in the documents and in the purchase contract so that it does not put your general fund at risk going forward. Assuming we're able to get past that, we would then come back with a board resolution, which and a preliminary official statement. It's some of the documents you've seen in the past that we would come back with you. If the board were to take action on those, the next step is the district would seek a credit rating, just as you've done in the past. You would go to the rating agencies and have the CFD rated. Subsequent to that, the underwriter would distribute a preliminary official statement, which is a prospectus to investors. The investors would then choose whether they want to buy your bonds or not. You may remember, and I think the timing was incredible when you refinanced your bonds last year. Interest rates were quite a bit lower, and congratulations, the timing that worked out very well. Your bonds were highly sought after by investors, especially in a time of economic uncertainty. And in many cases, there was many more buyers for your bonds than bonds available to sell. And when you're selling something, it's about demand and supply, and it's great to have a lot of demand. So we anticipate if we go down this path, once again, your bonds will be very well received. We would then lock in interest rates on the transaction. As an estimate right now, and this is only an estimate, I would say that the interest rate would be about 4%. You'll be able to borrow money for about 4%, not quite as low as it was a year and a half ago. But once again, we're on an inflationary trend, and the interest rates are likely to go higher in the future than there's the probability of them going lower. Once the transaction is done, interest rates are locked in, the transaction is closed, the funds are delivered to the district, and you can begin your construction program. One of the other items that your superintendent had us inquire with the legal team is, does the monies need to be spent only on schools within the Melrose district, or could they be spent, as the board wishes, on other facilities in the district as well? The legal opinion is you can issue and you can utilize those funds on other facilities within the district. It does not have to be facilities within the Melrose district. There is a requirement, though, that if a student then from the CFD wants to attend one of the schools that has been improved by the Melrose funds, that they get priority over someone else outside the attendance area who does not live in a CFD. So that's the factor. Those are some of the factors that your superintendent wants us to flush out before we come back to you. And if we get, or when we get the opinion from the legal counsel, it has been her direction that all of that must be built into the written language at the resolution as well as the bond purchase contract. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know that's a lot of information. To summarize, there is an opportunity to take a stream of cash flows that's coming in over time and to be able to capitalize that and bring it upfront in the form of a bond. There's some advantages of doing that. By having the dollars upfront, you can probably bring those improvements to your community sooner. And it may be less expensive now to build facilities improvements than it may be in the future. But of course, the board absolutely has the option to just allow those monies to come in over time and to be able to use the stream of cash flows in the future to be able to fund projects on a pay-as-you-go basis. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, be happy to answer any questions that the board or the community may have.
I had a couple questions, but first I wanted to open it up to the board. Any questions? Go ahead. Oh, fine. How much money would we be able to pull out with that initially?
We're estimating somewhere between $8 and $9 million at this time. It's a little bit closer to $9 million. If interest rates rise, it'll be a little bit lower than that, but it's close to about $9 million that the net that the district would receive if you proceeded with this program.
And all the payments going back to that would come from the Mello-Roos, is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
And would that have to be earmarked for construction right away, or could that be in put in a construction fund that we could use as needed?
The latter, sir, when you sell the bonds, you must have a reasonable expectation that you will spend the money within 3 years. So there's a 3-year horizon. There isn't a requirement to spend the monies within 3 years. But bond counsel will probably tell you that if you have no facilities needs, then they probably would not support the issuance of bonds. So it's a reasonable expectation that you will be able to utilize the funds within 3 years of issuance.
And did we have lots of things? That's
That was the question.
That was the next question.
We just a reminder, we are completing phase 3, is it? 3 over at Joshua, but we still have more work that needs to be done. So we're getting ready to go into the next phase. Also, we have the old Linda Verde Center that on the Linda Verde campus. So we are in design phase for that. And that's going to be another very big project, as well as looking at some other areas for potential modernization on the Linda Verde campus, such as their office and cafeteria. There's some other areas that need to be looked at, and our bond from quite some time. We've been doing a lot of projects, so we've been whittling it down. While it's not at zero, we have utilized that money and leveraged it very well. So there's not enough remaining there to cover all of those projects, but this would definitely help get us there. Now, we have not drawn down the final any more additional monies. There's still some money sitting there, but as I said, not enough to do everything that is on schedule.
Okay, great. Sounds like we got some good projects in the works. So do you need feedback from the board at this time, or?
Actually, yes. If there's any questions, or if there aren't any questions, then the board, as Kush had indicated, the options are to just continue doing what we've been doing without drawing down, or if the board would like me to continue to move forward with this, assuming those other conditions are met, then we would work to bring a resolution back and have that approved and continue to move forward and bring that back for the board's consideration and formal approval.
Wouldn't mind seeing a resolution. Any other comments or objections?
Consensus, it looks like we have consensus, Mrs. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
So, but I'm in favor.
Okay. Fine. If there's any additional questions that any of the board members have, please feel free to shoot them to myself, and I'll make sure that we get the responses for you. In the meantime, I'll continue to work with CFW and see if we can get all of these other conditions met and get the language where it's going to benefit the district. And assuming we can make that work, then we'll be coming back to you. Okay, Kush, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.
Thank you. Okay, our next item is addressing the board. Board members will be utilizing electronic devices during the meeting to access the online agenda. An electronic device may be used to record this meeting. Individuals who wish to address the board may complete a speaker card and present it to the superintendent's secretary. The board president shall recognize individuals who wish to speak. Individuals wishing to present testimony to the board concerning specific items on the agenda may do so once that item has been moved, seconded, and is on the floor for discussion. Time limits of 3 minutes per person and 20 minutes per item shall be allowed, according to Board Bylaws 9322. Board members may ask questions for clarification purposes. However, no action may be taken and no discussion may take place on an item not on the posted agenda per the Brown Act. With that, do we have comments from PTA?
None this evening.
CSCA?
No request.
Cal?
No request.
And comments from the audience?
We do have several requests to speak this evening. Christine Parkinson.
Good evening. First, I'm going to start with a letter that my coworker wrote. She wasn't able to make it tonight. It says, "Good evening. My name is Veronica, and I am a mom of 2 boys, age 4 and 2. These mask mandates are horrible for our children. I am here to ask you to please not mandate them. I work in the dental field, and I see people all the time with a tooth infection. My 4-year-old went to school a couple weeks ago, and before school, he was fine. Just another normal day. Little did we know that that night we would end up in the ER. He had developed a tooth infection, and it wasn't until his teacher called me to tell me that he was falling asleep in class and to come pick him up. When his dad picked him up, he removed his face mask and saw that his face was very swollen. His lip was huge, and his cheeks and eyes were swollen as well. All of that went unnoticed because he was not able to remove his mask at school. Excuse me. I called his teacher the next day, and she had mentioned that he hadn't eaten lunch that previous day. He must have been in pain, and she didn't notice, and he didn't mention it. Therefore, she never saw his face. Working in the dental field, I know how quickly an infection can go wrong. We took him to the ER that night, scared that he was going to get worse. I'm glad he's doing better now, but because of these masks, nobody noticed my child having problems. What if a child had had an allergic reaction to something they ate and they didn't speak up in time? Nobody would have noticed the facial swelling. We need to end these mandates now. Okay, now I'll go on to what I have to say. I'm speaking about your mask mandates. Whereas LSD advocates for equitable access for all students to a high-quality public education system that promotes and values an inclusive, safe, and supportive environment. Equitable access to high-quality education? Didn't the gentleman that you asked to speak up at the last meeting because you couldn't hear him through his mask state that the African-American population was at a 26% proficiency rate? Do you consider that high-quality education? Equitable access? Recently, I met an amazing family with 4 children, 3 of them school-aged. The children have expressed their desire not to wear a mask for obvious reasons. Because of this, their school, Westwind Elementary, has denied them access to in-class learning. Where's the inclusive, safe, and supportive environment that you speak of? Whereas it is the responsibility of each district to provide a welcoming, healthy, and safe community for all students and staff to thrive. To that end, some families, students, and staff have expressed a strong desire for face coverings to become optional. Families, students, and staff. What about the Lancaster School District Board protecting its students? We are a divided nation, a divided state, a divided community, and a divided schools. I have witnessed school representatives flip parents and students off for just peacefully protesting. I watched a daycare employee yelling at someone stating that your child can go on independent study then. Where is the welcoming, healthy, safe community there? This is the environment that you are nurturing and cultivating by following these mandates. When children, staff, and adults are bullying children because they are choosing their God-given constitutional right to not don a mask, when will you say enough is enough? Your own governor threw you under the bus when he said that the mask mandates were up to local jurisdictions. I encourage you to make a stand and end the mandates. Do not fall under the mask mandates end March 15th BS. Once the masks are removed, we will see a natural uptick in cold and flus. The educational population has masked and suppressed their immune systems for 2 years. They will need to naturally build their immunities back up. But my fear is that when we see this uptick, that Newsom or LA County will reinstate the mask mandates. You need to not request guidance. You need to tell them that this is what the district is going to do. End the mandates now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey Martinez.
Thank you. Good evening, board, and everybody else in the room. Thank you for letting me speak. I also would like to encourage you to make masking optional regardless of vaccination status. I'm aware what the governor said, but I'm concerned with the vaccination status. We don't have all our staff members vaccinated, and that's okay because it's their choice. We don't have students, and I don't want any discrimination to happen. So I just want to throw it out there that I'm hoping that masking will be optional regardless of vaccination status. I'm also would like to implore you to do better than the March 12th date and start tomorrow. What's different about, in 11 days from now, start tomorrow. As a teacher, I see daily the kids have suffered enough. My students are barely hanging on. Literally. Every day, I have 33 students, and at least one of them has to go outside. And it's like a frantic, have to get outside. I need to breathe for a little bit. And I have to let them go because I feel them. So one is having severe anxiety. And I'm going to go back to a speech I made at the beginning of the school year where a student, her mask broke and she was covering her face. And I said, it's okay, we're outside. It's okay. You'll be okay till we get a new mask. And she said, no, I don't like my face. So the mask is really detrimental to the kids. And I see it every day. Board members, with all due respect, you're not in the classroom with them and you don't have to see them from this high, just their eyes. It's sad, very sad. Lastly, I'd like to speak, two more things. Lastly, I'd like to speak about, the discriminatory testing. You've been a great place to work. I've enjoyed my 19 years here. But the loss of respect of having to test because I'm unvaccinated, or maybe I'm not. I choose not to share my personal medical information with anybody. So I have to test weekly, and that's causing a divide amongst the district. And I hope you will choose to end that because you know what? When I did get COVID, I did the right thing. I called my principal. I said, I'm feeling under the weather. Let me take a test and make sure I'm not going to come on Monday. And I followed that protocol. There was not a test that told me, not one of those, asymptomatic is a new word that's in the vocabulary now because of COVID. We didn't have it before. So I'm hoping that you will stand up against that and give us our dignity back and not allow us to be divided. Okay. The last thing I wanted to talk about was I am so glad we're going to have an open house. I think that's amazing. I'm hoping for in the class. I want to get back to normal. I know it's going to be outside of our classrooms, out in the air. I mean, if we're lifting mask mandates and stuff, let our kids be proud. They've worked hard. They're working harder than ever before because they're having to catch up from being out. They want to show their work. They want to show where they're sitting. They want to show it. And let's let them. Okay? Unmask our kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Shaylin Gumayage.
Good evening, board members. I would like to let you know I was one of those parents that got flipped off by a duty aide as she was leaving the school at Westwind. I'm here today to ask each of you to continue to approve the facial covering resolution to the state because they can still turn around and rescind everything that they're allowing you guys to do in 2 weeks. Our fight's not over. The state still has the ability to rescind the mask choice. And we also have Senate Bill 871 being reviewed on 3/9. We expect our school district to hold the line and not allow this to happen. If your lawyers advise otherwise, get new lawyers. If the insurance companies advise otherwise, get new insurance. We can no longer allow this political abuse to go any further with our children, teachers, and staff. It's way past the time for you to be on the right side of history and do what is right. Because 10 years from now, when these children are in high school or young adults, you will be in retirement, not worrying about the emotional mental health that you have left behind. Parents will have to pick up the pieces you left behind for not standing up and doing the right thing. Also, something to think about. For the next 2 weeks, those treating sick patients, prisoners, and school children are the only ones that have to be masked. Let that sink in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jaylene Davidson.
Before I begin to speak tonight, can you please give this to the board members and everybody sitting at the table? There should be one for each one.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. I stand before this board once again tonight. I'd like to say outraged, but it goes beyond that, way beyond that. I'm actually livid at this point and thoroughly disgusted by your actions and your lack of, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. While many of these people will be speaking to you tonight about masks and mandates, and I applaud each and every one of you, I will be addressing you concerning child abuse as mandated reporters. You have caused division. And in so doing so, you have actually created bullies, both adults and children. And I have witnessed this, and I will be speaking on this. And what for? For a virus that once again is 99.9% survival rate. You have been complacent in fraud with the state of California and LA County in complying with a state of emergency that one does not exist and the numbers do not back it up. And they have not for a long time. They also have started reporting the numbers because they have found out that more vaccinated people are actually getting COVID than unvaccinated people. I'm telling you tonight, it is time to say enough and start holding each and every one of you accountable. Do you know the suicide rate over the last couple of years is over 100%? Do you know last week, a 14-year-old girl, which we still don't know the outcome, took a handful of pills and tried to kill herself? Do you know a 12-year-old child where his parents did everything right, got him counseling, fought with the school, and did everything, still hung himself? And I get that you may all say you're sorry, and that's really sad to you, but I want to be the first one to tell you, your sorries are not offering any comfort to those families. You have stolen these children's identities, And, you know, it's great that the state of California is finally going to do your job and take the mask off. But the battle's not over. Do you think these children are going to know what to do when they do come off? Do you think that the bullies that are bullying them now, it's not going to get worse? You have perpetuated a lie and fed into unfounded fear. You have made it clear that your jobs and the money that you get for these children are more important than the children themselves. Now I'm going to speak on West Wind because I was there. I watched children who cried daily and wanted to be in school, but could not wear a mask because it made them sick. I watched them stand for the Constitution and peacefully protest. I watched your employees flip off children and adults. That's not even the worst of it. Your school at Westwind didn't even have a crossing guard, but you're worried about their safety. When I finally wasn't going to let the principal there hide any longer, and I told them I would wait until she's done. If she wants to hide in there for an hour, that's fine. I would wait. She called you guys, and you showed up. You put somebody on the corner for a crossing guard. And that's great, but because there's never been one there, I still watch children crossing between those cars without a crossing guard. How would she know? She hasn't done that. You haven't had a crossing guard there. One almost got hit by a car the other day. And I am thanking the Lord, not any of you, that that car actually was able to hit on its brakes and not hit that child. One of your own board members, and shame on you. Even though that child is still a registered student at that school and was peacefully protesting, doing what you guys have taught him to do, stand for his constitutional rights, needed to use the restroom. When he got ready to go use the bathroom, one of your board members asked him where he was going. He told him he had to go to the restroom. You know what your board member told him? No protesters allowed. You must leave. Now you're going to sit here and look at me and tell me that you have not become bullies? These children depend on you to protect them, and you have become their enemy. You are the people that they are fearing. So you know what? Yeah, this mask may come over. These masks may come off. But I don't trust any of you to stand up and fight for these children. And if the governor changes his mind, to fight for them and say no or give them freedom of a choice. And we're going to continue to fight because when the masks do come off, we still have to worry about if the children are going to commit suicide because the bullying is going to get worse. And you know why? Because you guys have created that in the last 2 years. You may not know me, and some of you do. And those that don't, I'm sure you will get to know me. But you know what? I had one of your people tell me about you had to follow what your insurance company said. You had to do what your lawyer said. You know what? I don't care about your insurance company. I don't care about your lawyers. I care about the children that you're supposed to care about. And you know what? We've had it. And even when this comes off, you guys still have a liability for what you have done the last 2 years. And I hope those insurance companies, and I'm going to tell them the same thing I told you. I hope those insurance companies and those lawyers that you depend on are going to cover you when we come after you to account for what you have done. And it's not even about going after you for the money. The only reason we're going after your lawyers and holding you accountable is because, like I said, it seems that you have shown us that's what matters to you most. But what I feel saddest for you for is you still, and if this does not apply to you, it's not meant to you. You still are each one going to have to answer to your creator who actually put you in the position you are. And I would like to remind you, these jobs you're so concerned of, you didn't get hired, you were elected, and you were elected by us. You will all have an account. And even though I think you should answer incredibly for what you've done and the abuse that you have caused these children, by the way, I'm sure none of you have reported yourself as mandated reporters. The abuse you have caused these children, I am still praying that God has mercy on your soul. Okay, one more thing. That picture that I handed you, which some of you have even shown that you don't even have a concern about that and threw it aside. That was drawn by an 8th grader because she didn't have a voice. You took it away, and that was how she spoke. That's how you made her feel.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Barbara Long.
Hello, school board. As always, thank you for allowing me to address you tonight. And like every time I'm here, I want to talk to you about mandates and sex ed curriculum. I don't want to be mudslinging, but I have to admit to you, I'm disgusted with this board, along with the AVU, the Antelope Valley Union High School, that for the high schoolers. I've been attending both school board meetings, and there's been a lot of discussion about ESSER funds. I didn't know what those were, so I looked them up. COVID money. I want to encourage anyone in the audience to do the same thing, to look it up, because this area has received a lot of money for COVID. The money you guys received to keep our kids oppressed under the guise of safety for a virus that has a 99.9% recovery rate. From a virus that is still spread by vaccinated and boosted people, I heard in both past meetings that there were excess funds and surpluses and how the COVID money has to be used up or you lose it. How about you give it back to our corrupt governor and free up our kids and teachers and staff that don't want any part of this? It's obvious that this is about the money. Have any of you noticed that as of on February 24th, in our local updates of hospitalized people, there were 14 people hospitalized, 9 were vaccinated, 5 were unvaccinated. There was 0 in ICU. COVID's dead in this town. It's over. And the insane part is that they're still encouraging people to get the jab. Next, have any of you paid attention to the sex ed curriculum? I ask this every time I'm here. What in the world does gender identity have to do with education? First it was same-sex attraction that has now progressed into whatever you think you are. You know that's wrong. Gender is carried in the male sperm, boy, girl, male, female, period. And now the whole trans movement. When does it stop? The next thing you know, we'll be having orgies in the classroom because that's what they feel like. We need to get some moral standards back in our schools. I've been around long enough to remember when prayer was how we started our day, and when prayer was removed and witnessed decay ever since. My prayer for you that this Lancaster School District will be the first in the AV to turn this ship around. And the last thing, I heard that teachers and staff were awarded back pay for the COVID days off. I'm happy for you, but when are you going to make it up? How are you going to make it up to the kids? That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Lori Carrizosa.
Good evening. My name is Lori Carrizosa, and I'm actually an alumni of this very school. I've lived in the Antelope Valley my entire life, and never have I ever, in my lifetime or my grandparents' lifetime for that matter, ever seen masks mandated in a school for any kind of virus or anything else. This is ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. I'm really saddened. I'm happy to hear that LA County is going to lift these mandates because they've got enough information for their, whatever you want to call it, statistics to find out who was affected by this or whatever they're doing. But you guys did nothing. You guys did nothing to stand up for the kids, and you still haven't done anything. And I just want to echo what all these other people are saying that I don't know if you're hearing or you have to hear over and over again. It's completely survivable. It's treatable. It's not worth a mask to wear. A mask doesn't even help you. The one thing I am really, really happy to see tonight is the first time I came and spoke here, there was about 6 people here. And I see a lot of momentum gained, and everybody here has found their voices, and they're helping their friends and families find their voices and find out exactly who it is that is for helping their children and who it isn't on this board. And like it was said, that you are in elected positions, and it won't be forgotten who was for it and who wasn't, and who just rode the wave to get the money. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I just can't believe that we're still here and you're going to hold out for 12 more days or whatever it is when the mask isn't even helping anybody. And it's hurting the kids, and everybody knows it. You know it. We know it. When is it going to stop? When is enough for you to stand up and say, we're not going to do this to our kids anymore? It's detrimental to their health. It's detrimental to the learning environment, which you say you want to provide. And it's doing nothing but lining people's pockets. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Michelle Hart.
Thank you. Hi. Good evening. I'm here on behalf of the students in this district and of the state of California. It has been heartbreaking to see what has been done to our kids over the past 2 years. They've been isolated from friends, masked, separated in class and lunch, scared into thinking that there was certain death to anyone who comes in contact with this virus, and much more. All of this for the sake of guidelines, not laws, not science. So for nothing, at the cost of our children's development, immune systems, self-esteem, and not to mention oxygen. Children need to see facial cues for development and the ability to learn language and speech. Now that we have set our children's development back by years, it's time to end these masks now. There's no logical reason to continue this mask mandate 1 minute longer. The way some of us see it is that the only reason this district will carry on those mandates and this charade is for you who claim to care about children to keep maintaining control. And that's just not your job. As parents, we take great pride in raising our kids to be strong, productive members of society, and it is not up to teachers and administrators to undermine that. There's no difference between today and March 12th with these, in terms of the coronavirus. So we need to end the mandate today. Unmask our children today.
Thank you.
Mario presents.
Apartheid, segregation, separation, apartness. All these words mean the same thing when you have one group forcing down the mobility of others. It's just a mask. It's just a swab. It's just a procedure you don't want. So we'll make life as difficult as we can for you and your children. You won't have a job. You won't be able to shop freely and dine freely. And you have to wear a mask to show the world how unclean you are. This dystopian world is quickly approaching reality, and anyone who thinks otherwise is either a statist or a totalitarian. Our founding fathers relished the freedom of choice so much that they enshrined them in our founding documents and described them in the Bill of Rights. The right to work and provide for your family doesn't come from the state nor the employer. It comes from nature. Employers have a right to be selective in hiring. They have a right to terminate employees who fail a drug test. Employers do not have the right to review routine medical examinations, cancer screenings, STD tests, nor dental procedures. Get vaccinated, get tested, protect your family. It's on every billboard and commercial across the country. But who's profiting from these vaccines, tests, and protections? Communities have defeated COVID without a shutdown and without putting more money in the hands of drug makers. Children are hating school when they should be loving it. And we're firing teachers who value their medical privacy or bodily autonomy. Online advertisements are encouraging people to get their teaching credentials, not because they're qualified or they like children, but because they don't have the teachers. Many teachers have also left the field amid face masks, plastic barriers, Zoom classes, and uploaded test results. This pattern is being repeated all over California to the cheers of, "I hope the unvaccinated get COVID and die." Science has never been able to truly replicate what nature does in terms of inoculations against infection. However, smallpox and its original formula came very close. The Tuskegee experiment taught us to be wary of any government incentivized program, but here we are at our local school district telling you to not force your staff to get a vaccine that doesn't prevent transmission. If modern scientific formulas were truly effective, the vaccinated wouldn't be catching or spreading this deadly disease.
Thank you.
Mark? Is Mark here? Thank you. It's Napolitano. Thank you very much.
Oh, just a thank you.
You don't have to do all that. It's okay. Thank you, though. My voice travels. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Mark Napolitano. I'm not sure if any of you have children still attending public school. Maybe you have grandchildren who attend public school still. If you do, have you spoken to them about what's going on in their schools over the past 2 years? As adults, we know how going through school can be very challenging. While some students may struggle with learning, some may struggle with social skills, reading out loud, physical education, or just trying to fit in. Some of us may have been teased, bullied, or even beaten up for countless reasons. Now kids face even more difficult times with all things that have been added over the last few years, from pronouns and gender identity to mask and personal medical information. We all remember what it's like growing up, and I guarantee you that the new gossip for kids is whether or not they've gotten a shot. You have and continue to deny children's education, deny children's special events or field trips. It's insane that we've been told to follow the science, yet don't question the science. For those whom forgot, science is defined as a branch of study concerned with observation and classification of facts especially with the establishment of verifiable general laws, chiefly by induction and hypothesis. Accumulated knowledge, systemized and formulated with reference to the discovery of general truths or the operation of general laws. So on the terms of science, if an inoculated person can receive and transmit this virus, why are we enforcing strongly towards our children, whom parents believe it's their right, not the right of the government, state, Department of Health, or school to decide what shall be injected into our children? You board members need to stop bullying these children and employees over the ever-changing madness directed from the state and Department of Health. Can you look your children or grandchildren in their eyes and tell them happily that you allowed and continue to allow this? Or will you take a stand with the children's parents and fight for what is right? Parental choice, not that of Dick Pan or Scott Wiener. Senate Bill 866-871-1479 and Assembly Bill 1993, 1797, and 2098. I don't know if you guys have looked into those, but those are horrible things. How are you going to allow a 12-year-old children, right? Let's have a vaccine clinic at a school and just encourage the kids to go put something in their body that they, have no understanding what it is. You can't even legally buy cigarettes, vote, or anything at the age of 12, right? So, you board members to continue to bully our children and your employees. Are you willing to fight against these bills with us? We insist you lift any and all mandates today that have been enforced over the last 2 years. I also would like to request a treasurer's report of the $85,605,535.06 received under the American Rescue Plan Act. I found that information at edsource.org. End this madness now and allow our children to be kids again.
Kristen Welch and Bella.
Hello, my name is Bella Manis, and I am the fourth grader at Nancy Corey, who spoke at the last board meeting. I just wanted to let everyone know that I really miss school, and I really hope you guys can make the right decision and let my family and I decide whether or not we wear masks. 2 days ago, when my mom told me the news, me and my mom were about to cry. And it was about masks not at my school. I hope whether or not that decision is made, you can make your own decision so I can return to class. Thank you.
Yeah, a little taller.
Yeah, you're a little taller.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for listening to everyone voice their concerns tonight. I know we have a full house and you've been pretty gracious letting a lot of us speak over time, myself included. Done that in the past. I do want to say that I think many of the people in this room will agree that we've just had enough of the mandates. Waiting for the state and the county to release their stranglehold on our schools is not going to do us any good. We need immediate action that restores the rights that should have never been taken away from students and faculty to begin with. Students like my daughter who just spoke should not be forced into independent study because this was not voluntary. She was pulled out of class, sent to Mr. Denning's office. They called me and told me that she had two choices: put on a mask or go on independent study. I think we might run into a problem there, but we'll get back to you. I don't think Bella should also have to worry about whether or not she's going to have to yo-yo back and forth each time an alleged surge happens, because that's what's going to happen, okay? So that, like many other rules, does not provide a stable and consistent learning experience, and these kids have already dealt with that enough in the last couple years. Our students and staff should not have the right to choose, continue to rely on the whims of political entities that do not abide by their own rules. The type of emotional damage that this is doing and that this is going to have come along with it is going to be very detrimental when we see kids bouncing back and forth, because if you don't do something to solidify this, instead of just going off of the state and the county, you're going to continue to go back and forth. And that's not good. That's damaging. So are kids like my daughter just going to spend 2 weeks in class and 2 weeks on independent study every time there's a magical surge? By continuing to entertain flawed PCR and antigen testing numbers, we are going to do just that. I was actually a little sad to hear earlier in this meeting that the district has already wasted money on a large number of tests to try and impress upon schools in the spring. What is that going to do? As a healthcare professional of over 17 years, and I don't want to hear you're worried about this insurance loss job, anything. I lost my life and my career. So that's insulting. As a healthcare professional, I cannot stress enough that we need to move away from this system and do more to instead solidify our rights to choose and keep it that way, okay? The right to choose does not fluctuate with numbers. It doesn't come and go with flu or cold seasons. Don't get me started on that. And it doesn't care whether or not anyone's up for re-election. Parents in the community, paired together, are going to continue to fight back, and we are not going to forget the damage that has been done here, and we are not going to go quietly into the night. Just because the state and the county are relaxing masks for now, because we know what's going to come with those as well. I'm going to pause there for a second. This is going to come with, and we already know where this is going. You guys have actually asked for help in regard to how you might have to implement this, and it hasn't even passed yet, but that our kids are going to probably, have to vaccinate to go to school this fall? That ain't happening. What we need to do here is not rely on our state and county, and we need to solidify our rights and not allow them to continue to fluctuate back and forth with these tests and numbers and stuff that are admittedly flawed. This is admitted by the CDC. And I don't understand why we still continue to impose masks that literally, as a healthcare professional, I was taught this helps stop bloodborne pathogens. That's it. This does not stop viruses. Do you know the micrometers on a mask or how this works? It's just, I can't anymore. I really hope you guys take the steps to do the right thing and continue to keep this as a choice and not rely on what you're being told, because this is going to end up being very detrimental for the district, because parents like myself are ready to take action and we're ready to litigate. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Nicholas Polito.
Hello. Hello, good evening. My name is Nicholas. I am 9 years old and I am in the 3rd grade. I haven't been to school for 10 days due to me being tired of wearing a mask. I miss sitting in class and learning and playing with my friends. And every day I get, no, you cannot come to school. Mr. Larry Fraze, I wanted to know what was your intention on calling the sheriffs on us. Did you want my mom to get arrested in front of us? You didn't have to do that. Please let me and my siblings go back to school. I am tired of being excluded. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julian Polito. Julian? Okay.
Hello, good evening. My name is Julian. I am 11 years old and I am in the 5th grade. I have been denied school for 10 days now. I was denied an education just because I stood up for my rights. I really miss going to school and being able to get my education and see my friends. I would really like to go back to school again without being denied entry for trying to breathe fresh air. Yesterday, as my siblings and I were protesting, I walked my way to the restroom. As I was walking there, I stood by Mr. Wynn and he said, "Hey, gentlemen, where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to the restroom." And he told me, "We do not allow protesters on campus." How can you do such a thing? If you needed to use the restroom, I would let you use the restroom. My parents raised me to be a kind human being, and what you did was not kind at all. Please allow me to go back to school. It has been too long. We have every right to go to school just like everyone else. I should be able to make a choice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carla Galvin.
Good evening. My name is Carla Galvin. I'm here once again because the abuse of power continues. My children have been denied an education for 10 days now because all of you decided to support the torture of a mandate, not a law. When will you end this? My children have experienced bullying, intimidation by staff, including 2 of you board members. These nonsensical mandates need to end now. You have caused my children emotional and mental stress. Every day they wake up in hopes to be allowed back in school, but they come back home feeling defeated. Why are you denying my children in-person education? To keep your job while my children lose their education? Isn't this why you're a part of the school board? To care about our children's education? I don't know how any of you can sleep at night knowing you support this evil. Ms. Bowers, you talk about masks being optional for students, but even at this point when masks were lifted outdoors, students are still being forced to wear them. My kids' friends come up to them when we're outside protesting and they tell them how lucky they are that they're not masking, that they're lucky because they don't have to run outside with mask on. This is abuse. The abuse still is going on outside. Ms. Bowers, have you known my children before this? No, you have not. My children have gotten superintendent awards before, and you did not know about them before this. You know them because they're standing up for what they believe in. That's why you know them. All of you are equally responsible for what's happening to my children and to every child that believes they have no other choice. Unmask our kids today. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have one final comment from Laura Giles. I don't think Laura's here. Is she? Okay, so she sent something and I will read it. It says, "Good evening. I am asking you tonight to approve the resolution for making masks optional in schools. This is not controversial. The state has updated its guidance to recommending masks be worn, but no longer mandating it. Our county health officer needs to hear from the school district that parents want masks optional. While our county health officer has announced that it will be aligning with the state guidelines making masks optional starting March 12th, they have left it up to school districts to decide for themselves whether to allow for masking to be optional. Masking should be a personal choice and not a mandate. Our children need to return to normalcy. We are only asking this board to document what the parents have been requesting for months now. Approval of this resolution does not risk liability or loss of coverage of insurance. I am also requesting that the schools no longer exclude parents from their campuses. 3 of my children received achievement awards last week. As a parent, I was not included or invited to these assemblies. I am asking that you open the schools to the parents so that we can be a part of our children's educational experience. For many years, I have volunteered in each of my children's classes. I make copies for the teachers, cut out laminated items, correct papers, and read to the students. I have enjoyed assisting the teachers and being a part of my children's education. Since March of 2020, I have been made to feel like the enemy. This also needs to end. We need to return our children's schools, activities, and parental involvement to normal. As an adult, I can go any place in LA County except for my children's school. I know it's a recommendation that you limit visitors to school campuses, but it is not required. Parents should be allowed to attend awards assemblies, back to school night, and open houses. Students should be able to participate in sports and extracurricular activities, including in-person after-school tutoring. I implore you to return to normal school routines as soon as possible. Thank you, Laura Giles.
Thank you.
Mr. TP, that concludes the comments.
I just want to again thank you for all your comments and input. And as a board, we really do consider the input of our parents and staff. So thank you so much for that. Next, we're going to go on to our individual action items. Superintendent, item 13A, adoption of resolution 2021-2220. Board member compensation for missed meetings for Sandra Price. Do we have a motion? So moved. Moved by Mr. Giles, second by Mrs. Grooms. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. What was yours, Mr. Wynn? Nay. Okay. So we have 2 ayes and 2 nays, so I'm not sure how that works.
Okay. If it's a tied vote, it does not pass.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have item 13B, adoption of resolution 2021-2221, request to the California Department of Public Health, CDPH, for the revision of face covering guidance for schools and school-based programs. Do we have a motion? So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Giles, second by Mrs. Grooms. Any discussion? Have some discussion.
I feel that the mask guidelines are within a week or two of being lifted. And I feel it's prudent that we stay with those guidelines until such time as that they are lifted, as we have been doing for the last 2 years.
Okay, any further discussion? Good with that. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
We have 2 ayes and 2 nays. Okay, next we have item 14, consent agenda items, superintendent, items 14A to 14G. Do we have a motion? So moved. Moved by Mr. Giles.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
Sorry, there was an interruption. I couldn't hear anything.
We have a motion by Mr. Giles. Do we have a second?
14.
14, yeah. Consent. Second by Mrs. Grooms. And I'd like to pull item C for a future meeting. I wanted to get some more information on that. So we would need a motion and a second to be able to do
So
that,
moved.
I believe.
Yeah.
Second. Okay. Moved by Mrs. Grooms. Second by Mr. Wynn. Okay. all in favor to pull item C for a future board meeting to get more information, say aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Okay. And so now our vote is for items A through G, but with C pulled. Any discussion on items A through G?
Just wanted to say thank you again to Jeanette Tigert for the coats and also for the clothing and coats from Vince's Pizza, Pasta and Pizza. These items are really valuable for our kids.
Yeah, that's great to see those donations. Very, very much. I was impressed with the hand sanitizer. That's quite a lot of hand sanitizer there. That's gonna.
They got 2 trucks of that stuff, 2 whole truckloads. I don't know how many boxes they gave you, but there was a lot of it.
That's gonna
They gave us quite a bit, and we continue to give it out very freely. So thank you.
People seem to love it.
Yeah. All right. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay, next we have items 15, consent agenda items, business items 15A to 15V. Do we have a motion?
Moved
by Mr. Wynn.
Second.
Second by Mr. Giles. Any discussion? It's great to see the completion on a lot of those construction projects.
I have a question on the surplus vehicles. How were they distributed? Did they use the online?
Can you say
government surplus?
Dean, what process do you use for the surplus vehicles? It's an online auction. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Grooms, we believe that we can get a better value for scrap via these surplus vehicles rather than just selling them for scrap, because while we can no longer use them because they either don't function or they don't pass smog, that's because of the standards that we're held to as a district. There may be other people out there who have an absolute need for the use, and we think we could procure a much better value by putting them on auction rather than selling them for scrap. And also because they don't run or they can't be smogged, we can't do the trade-in for air quality management district that we've done for some of our other vehicles. We've gotten that electric equipment. So these are things that we're in the last point. This is the only option left, and we believe the auction service will produce a better return for the district.
I notice a lot of them. Oh, I'm sorry. I notice a lot of them. You put 0 down for anticipated income. You anticipate more than 0, though, correct?
That's correct. We have no idea what we'll get for them. We get an idea what they'll be worth in scrap. We hope we get significantly more for the auction.
You expect to get something, though?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I was looking to see if there's any that my kids might be able to drive, but dump trucks, I don't think so. Okay. With that, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And that brings us to items 14, consent agenda items, educational services. Items 16A to 16G. Oh, excuse me, 16. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Wynn. Second by Mrs. Grooms. And any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carry 4-0. Okay, next we have item 17, consent agenda items, human resources services, item 17A to 17B. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Giles. Second by Mr. Wynn. And any discussion or questions? Okay, with that, we'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motions carry 4-0. Items 18, consent agenda items, innovation and technology services, items 18A to E. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
By Mr. Giles, second by Mrs. Grooms. And so I was kind of questioning about the outdated district electronic equipment. Is that kind of, do we put that up for auction too? or-
No, we're selling it to a company, so we're going to get $4,900 back for that equipment, which is really good because we have been e-wasting it with very little money back to the district, but these were expensive pieces of equipment, and so we thought we could get more for them.
That's great. Great to hear. Because I know sometimes that electronic equipment is kind of hard to get rid of when you need to. So that's great to hear. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motions carry 4-0. Okay, next we have legislative and policy discussion item 19. We have some ratings. Any update on that? Or any questions? Okay. With that, we'll move on to comments from the board. Let's start with Mr. Giles.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Thank you for our update from Dr. Goins. Always lighthearted explanations, so that's good to hear about that. I'm not so sure exactly what the idea of that extending their terms was for, but if it's legislation, I guess we're dealing with it. So thank you for the update on that. Great news with the Department of Public Health and the LA County Department of Health with the updates. Dr. Bowers, thank you for updating that, and thank you for writing our resolution. Unfortunately, we still don't have that to pass on, but thank you for your work there. Hats off to our meal service prep people. I do see they were one of our first responders out there when things were just starting, and they've been doing it ever since. So my hats off to them for all over the meals they serve and all the things they do for us. Thank you for Caldwell Flores Winters for the presentation. We're out the Melrose, I guess, bonding, and sounds like Dr. Bowers is trying to make them work some magic to make that work. So I'm interested to see if they can do that. I guess the only other question, I guess the way it sets now, the rate's already set, right? As far as how it bonds out now with the Melrose, there's no way the taxpayers will pay more or less, or does the rates change?
No, the rates would not, any bonding that we might do would not impact taxpayer rates.
Right.
So their rate would be established by the LA County Recorder's Office, and it is what it is. So it would not change, and whatever they've been paying, they will continue to pay.
Right.
Now, what this proposal, just a reminder, this proposal does not assume that there's any new properties that would come in. So any additional properties that might be added to that Melrose area would be above and beyond.
Right.
That revenue would be above and beyond this calculation that we have.
Okay. Well, thank you. And
you're welcome.
I'm looking forward to see what else they come up with. And I guess thank you to all our speakers. I appreciate their passion and their interest in our kids and my kids. It's been a tough couple of years, and I guess we're going to continue to do what we can and try to work forward. I know my kids complain about the mask pretty much every day, but we'll do the best we can. But thank you for everything we've done. Thank you. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Mrs. Grooms?
Thank you. Congratulations to all of the ACES Award winners. the little things and big things add up to, people caring about each other. And I really do appreciate the awards program to recognize those things. In case you are wondering why there's a rubber chicken sitting next to me, our Antelope Valley School Boards Association has a scholarship fund, and we have a little game that we play, and I lost the game, so therefore I have to run around for the next 2 months collecting donations of $1 or $5 or whatever you might have, but it will go directly to the School Boards Association Scholarship Fund. So if you are interested in feeding the chicken, as we say, please see me after the meeting. I appreciate it. Absolutely everyone who spoke today. I appreciated also all the ones who emailed me and all of the people who did not wish to come forward publicly. You're right.
We'll make sure they weren't spray painting or something.
Okay. Okay. Training kicked in here.
Making sure that one didn't have any spray paint. That's all good. What's that? Yeah. Hey, I could hear people. Just want to make sure we weren't.
Anyway, I appreciate the comments. I believe that the mandates will be lifted by the 12th, they say. I do not anticipate that we would ever approve to do this again. But I have to hold to the principle of the parents of children who, frankly, are glad there are masks so that they are not getting sick, and staff members and their safety. And that's why I have continued to vote for the masking. I am not in support of vaccination in any way, shape, or form until something is proven. And I have not seen a lot of action on that regard since it was first mentioned last October, and I'm grateful for that. It's a very difficult decision, but I feel I would be two-faced if I voted for the resolution at this point. That's it.
Thank you. And Mr. Wing?
Yes, good evening. Rebecca, keep up the good work. Dr. Bowers, let's keep advertising. It is so good news to see 70 since the last meeting, and over 330 since last year. Very happy to see the ACES Awards, and very nice that we had those back again. What if you get 8, Lexi? Will it be an 8er? Anyway, also thank you to Debbie. You're still here, right? Thank you very much. There were no truer words spoken than when Dr. Freeze said, "You guys are amazing. You've put out lunches. I've been to the schools during the pandemic time, during your lunch handout, and I'm just amazed at how smoothly that went. And now you're back in school and you're still doing it, and the kids say nothing but praise for the food service. So thank you very much, Debbie. Appreciate it. Dr. Goins, I was just a little taken aback by that AB 130. Now, not because Life Source has always been one of our primary charter schools that has been in existence and helped us for quite a while. High Leads classes are, I'm sorry, not up to the standards of the Lancaster School District. I have done many checks on that, and now we have to allow them another 2 years on their charter. The one from Acton that we didn't even approve gets another 2 years without anything we can do about it, from the sounds of it. So, not very pleased with that. With the parents speaking tonight, people say, well, it's all the board. It's not the board. Those who should be talked to should go see the County Board of Supervisors, the Department of Public Health, CDC. We have guidelines we have to follow. And those guidelines cause us to not do what they want. Well, I understand there are 15, 20 people that speak at these meetings, but that leaves, if the numbers are correct, about 15,000 almost that aren't speaking. So they're the quiet voices. We don't know what their feeling is. We don't know how they perceive the mask mandates, but as Diane said, in 2 weeks, we will reach the end of this and move forward. So I'm for that. And I look forward to those 2 weeks. On a brighter note, Fulton and Allsbury will be honored this week in Monterey, California, as a school to be seen. And that is good news. I think Dr. Glatfelder will be there, as will Candy Haser. And it's just good to see that our schools continue to rise above, I think, any of the others in the Antelope Valley. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wint. And Fulton and Allsbury, they're receiving an award for one of the best schools in, was it the state or the nation?
The state. So it's the Schools to Watch program. This year is actually kind of taking the place of like the distinguished schools. So they were one. Some of us had the opportunity to participate in the interview process, but they excelled there and are being recognized. So we're very excited for them. Actually, I said the state. I think it's at a national level because
it's U.S. World, and
that's what I thought.
Yeah, the conference is in D.C. in June.
Right.
So they've got a lot of national recognition from this. So it's a Schools to Watch for the nation.
Wow.
So it is quite an honor and quite an accomplishment. So kudos to the entire Fulton and Allsbury staff, but also the students and the families for all that they do. Mm-hmm.
Make sure you wish them well up there. I know I couldn't make it. I think you're going, correct?
I am going.
So just make sure you know I was there with them in spirit. I just couldn't get the time off. So.
Oh, no worries.
Big cheers for us.
I'll take lots of pictures.
Yeah, do that.
Well, great input. Was from the board and great board meeting. I also wanted to again congratulate the ACES Awards and all the people being recognized throughout our district for all their great work. And also again, great news, the mask mandate being lifted. I'm super excited about that and about our move to have more open houses throughout our school sites. So that's going to be fantastic for kids and parents and so forth. I'm also hear some of the parents saying their concerns about there's another wave come through, a mask would come back. So I hope that would not be the case. And also that the mask wouldn't be tied to any sort of vaccination status. So that's what I'm also going to be looking for, to make sure that it's an option for the parents and for the students, that they can choose what's best for their kids. So great to see that we're moving in that direction, definitely. And I think all your voices have been heard, even with the county. I think they do hear what goes on at school board meetings. So again, I want to commend you for that. And I believe they do take that into consideration when they're looking at their what they're doing with their guidelines and so forth. Yeah, great to see with the bond measure, we can maybe finance some of those projects we're still working on. So that's good to see. And also, I heard some concerns about possible crossing guards. So I wanted to see if maybe we could look into that, see if there might be a need for extra crossing guards or at any of the school sites, and just make sure we got those covered. Yeah. But great board meeting. Thank you, everyone. And with that, Ms. Bowers.
Thank you. I won't keep us much longer. Just also want to say thank you to Child Nutrition and all of our folks that are not here, but Debbie, you're here representing. So thank you so much for all that you do. And we don't often get an opportunity to just let you know how much you are appreciated, and everyone in that department. They get up at dark 30 in the morning and they report there before anyone and start the fire and start cooking and make sure that all of our families and our children are fed. So just know how much what you do and what everyone does is appreciated. Sometimes they might think that we're not thinking about them. We've forgotten about them, but we never forget, and truly do appreciate all that you do. Congratulations also to our ACES Awards recipients this evening. So thank you for each and every one of you for all that you do. And there's so many others out there that go above and beyond each and every day, providing exceptional customer service, but just doing what needs to be done for our students and for everyone at our school system. So thank you. And I just wanted to let the board know that again this year, we did it last year and it was a big success. We had a Smart Start campaign to promote early kindergarten registration. So we are doing that again this year. Want to give a shout out and thank you in advance to Rose Warris over at the Welcome and Wellness Center, who has really been instrumental in taking lead on this for me. Jerry revised my flyers for me, so we got new postcards and they started hitting mailboxes this week. Rose was telling me that she's already gotten a buzz over there. So each and every school, elementary school, has been or will be provided with backpacks for any students that enroll, new students that enroll to the district in our TK or K programs. So we're excited about that, and they will have them at the elementary schools as well as at Welcome and Wellness Centers. So I believe that will start on Monday, and we're excited about that. We want to do everything we can to let people know the time to enroll for fall is now. So it's never too early or never too late to think about where your child will go in Lancaster School District is absolutely an excellent choice. So thank you.
Yep, it's hard to believe, but fall's around the corner. All right, great board meeting. Thank you, Ms. Bowers. And with that, we will adjourn at 8:23. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Wynn. And second by Mr. Giles. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right. Good night, everyone. Great board meeting.
And thank you to everyone who stayed and hung out.